way and the truth and the life. Believe in me.
Thanks be to God.
Okay. Now, I imagine that if you were to discuss American culture and our themes that make us American, and you were to think about songs that associate with our American consciousness, if you will, then maybe the first song dealing with agriculture may include things like Amber Waves of Grain, right? Most of us have heard that song, and the idea of our country being based on agriculture and grain and these beautiful wheat fields and cotton fields and corn fields and whatnot. If you were to ask an Israelite, a Jewish person, what a similar idea that would represent their culture at the time of Jesus, they would have thought of the vineyard. The vineyard. In fact, over and over in the scripture, we hear again in the Old Testament Israel pictured as the vine or the vineyard of God. Isaiah the prophet is pictured Israel as the vineyard of God. He said, the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel. In Jeremiah, we read God referring to his chosen people in this way: I planted you as a choice vine. Hosea spoke of a word of judgment when he said, Israel has become an empty vine. In the Psalms, we read that God compares Israel to a vine that came out of Egypt. Josephus, a Jewish Roman historian, informs us that over the temple in Jerusalem was carved an exquisite gold-leaf grapevine. It stood as the symbol of national unity for Israel. The grapevine, the vineyard, was considered, if you will, the image of Christian, or excuse me, of Jewish and Israel identity. Now, in our country, many of us don't know a lot about vineyards, but I imagine that if you grew up in Niagara County, and if you grew up in the Finger Lakes like I did, you'd probably see vineyards. And you would see them as common and becoming more and more common. Now, what I've been told by those who grow grapes is that you plant them, and as they grow and become young plants and start to bear their first fruit, you cut them back. Brutally. You cut them back. You prune them. Now, there's a tradition that I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, that when I was a young boy, about 12, and I started to get my first hint of fur on my face, my mother said, oh, you're starting to get some hair on your face. She said, but don't shave it. Just wait. Because if you shave it, it will come back thicker. I don't know if that's true or not. You know? So, of course, first thing I did was shave it. Come on, Mom tells you not to shave. Of course you're going to shave. Your mom tells you to shave. Of course you're not going to shave. So, whatever Mom said. So she said, don't shave it. So, of course, to shave. And it did seem to come back thicker, although I've never been able to grow a full beard. And when I was younger, my beard was red. A red beard. So I became the weirdest person. Blonde hair, black eyebrows, red beard. So I like to go figure. In any case, what I've been told by experts in vineyard science, the many I've spoken to over the years, the one or two, is that if you cut the vines down, when they come back, they'll come back thicker and more healthy. And so what they do is they will, from what I've been told, is that they'll prune them, and then they'll come back thicker and healthier. Now, I was thinking about the Christian faith, and I was thinking about our own faith, and And I was thinking about what makes us Christians and what makes us a church and whatnot. And one thing that seems to be a common theme among Presbyterians, mainline Christians, among Christians in general, is that our numbers are thinning, that our community is growing smaller. And this is particularly the plight among Presbyterians, right? Presbyterian churches are becoming smaller. I've served 2 other churches that have since closed. Now, one I was the pastor, and they closed recently. One I was the moderator of, and it was a Hungarian church, and they just stopped making Hungarians, and so they just stopped. And I guess Magyar Presbyterian Church, which was in Lackawanna, Hungarian Presbyterian Church, I was their moderator for a while, and they just closed their doors. And so we contract, we get smaller. And with that smallness comes feelings of insecurity, feelings of a sense that we are less important, that we are somehow less worthy. It used to be a time when we could say of the Presbyterian Church that we were a church of presidents. We were a church of the Roosevelts. We were the church of the Wilsons. We were the church of Ronald Reagan. We were a church of the great governors and mayors and people of authority. But as time has gone on, we have dwindled. And it makes us feel a little bit insecure. But I want to tell you some things that are important to keep in mind. That sometimes you prune things and they come back stronger. And there's a movie that we've been watching in Dollar Dinners. And it's the story of a man who, you begin the story and it's a man who's my age. And he has a heart attack and he dies. Starts out with his death. But then it goes back in time and it has a flashback of when he had his first heart attack 5 years earlier. And when he had his first heart attack, how his life changed. And how he, I'm going to cough, just hold on. Excuse me. I wanted to warn you. How his life changed. And how it became different after his first heart attack. And how he started to change his life. And he was coming back from the hospital after his heart attack, and he has his cane, and this poor person comes up to him, a homeless person, and says, I need some food. And he says, I have no money, I just got out of the hospital. And then he goes in the store and he buys a bunch of food, and he comes out, and then he starts to realize that he had just lied to this person. So he goes over and he gives them some food, and he comes home and he has this huge house, and he looks at the house, and it's just gorgeous and beautiful, and he has 4 people living in a house that could fit 30 people. And he starts to realize, my goodness, I have so much stuff. And he goes into his closet and he realizes he has all these clothes that he never wears that just are sitting there. And he starts to change his life. He starts to give away some of his clothes. And his wife says, hold on. Why do you have to do this all at once? You go to church, isn't that enough? And I was starting to think, wouldn't it be nice if going to church was enough, right? Say as I greet you on Heritage Sunday at the back of the church, and you all came and you all had these cards, and you came to the back of the church, and I opened up the church and doors, shook your hands, and you said, here's my card. And I go, oh, smiley face, snapped it on your smiley face, and then you could go around the rest of the day. I went to church, I got a smiley face from the pastor, smiley face, and you went the next week, smiley face, woo! And you see a homeless person, they ask you for food, smiley face. Oh, okay, sorry, you went to church, my bad, I'll find someone else that didn't go to church. Someone asks you for, you go to work and someone asks you to do something unethical, you say, I guess I can do something unethical. Smiley face. I got a pass, right? Could you imagine going through life? You go to church and that's enough. You got a smiley face card that you can go around and you can show everyone. Maybe it has a smiley face and a cross. Maybe it's a Jesus face. And you can show that card to anyone that you pass and they'd say, you get a pass. You don't have to be a Christian because you went to church on Sunday. And I start to wonder, is that enough? Is that enough? You know, we may be small. We may be pruned back a bit, but that doesn't mean that we have to go around every day and feel sorry for ourselves. That doesn't mean that we have to be lesser Christians. What that means is that we have to come back with more fruit. We have to be more of what we are. We have to be more powerful in our compassion, more loving in our commitment, more Christ-like in our lives, more willing to sacrifice in what we do and what we say and what we are. We can't rely on the smiley face cards. That may have gotten us by in the 1950s. We may have said, I go to the First Presbyterian Church. Oh, you could be elected to mayor because you are a devout Christian. That may have gotten us by a while ago, but it's not going to get us by now. We've got to do more. Imagine when Jesus was preaching to his people, and there were so few of them, and he said, you got to cut away at the root of who you once were, and commit yourselves to something new, something more powerful, something more bold and more wonderful. I think that's hard. You know, I wish it were easy. But I think a lot of us believe that you go to some churches, and I've been there. I've been to them. I'm not going to criticize them that much. But I've been to some churches. And you go to the church and you sit down in a beautiful stadium-like setting, comfortable seats, and the preacher will preach an hour sermon sometimes, or a 45-minute sermon, and there'll be projections up, and there'll be this and that. There'll be beautiful music played by a band, well-trained, well-paid, and there'll be this perfectly wonderful sense of wonder at how efficient it is. And I've been in those churches, and if a kid cries, right, the usher will get up and they'll take the child to the nursery, and the child will be in the nursery. And if there's a child that's in the church, the ushers will come by and they'll take the child into the place where they can play video games for the worship service. And they'll have this wonderful experience in there. And then at the end of the day, they can go home and they can say, I did my Christian duty. But I wonder if that's enough. Sometimes you gotta sweat a little bit. Sometimes the seats need to be a little bit uncomfortable for the fanny. Sometimes you have to experience a little bit of heartache in your life to understand the beauty of being a Christian. Sometimes you need to feel the pain in order to appreciate the love and compassion and the mercy and the grace that comes about being a Christian. Oh, I wish I could say to people, I'll stamp your Jesus smiley face card and everything will be okay. But I can't. I wish I could say that you will have no pain. You'll have no heartache. I wish I could say that the next day, if a homeless person comes up to you and asks you to give you some money, you can just show your smiley face Jesus card and they'll say, sorry, you're right. I wish being a Christian was that easy. But you know it's not. There is an element of sacrifice. And I think when Jesus said to his disciples, take up the cross and follow me, he wasn't just saying, take up a gold cross and put it around your neck and walk down the street like Madonna and say, woo, got a cross. I'm looking fashionable. I'm looking cool. I'm looking hip. I'm like a rapper. All those rappers with the big crosses, Kanye West, woo, big cross. That's nice. But as a Christian, is that what it means to take up the cross and follow? I think not. I think it means more. So cut away the things that distract you from the message of Christ. Cut away the things that that bear down your body in a way that makes it so you can't follow Christ. Cut away the weeds that are choking the fruit. Cut them away. My favorite part of that video that we watched was they were going to the funeral home with the suit that the man was going to wear in his coffin. A sad, tragic time, right? And the wife said, the daughter said, "Why did you choose that shirt?" And the wife said, "It's because it's the only shirt that he hadn't already given away." He goes to his death, giving everything away. I wish I could say that. When I die, I could say, I gave away all myself to help serve others. I gave away all that was me to help others. I gave away even my clothes to those who needed them because it is who I wanted to be, and it was what made me who I am. That I was willing to prune away. Amen. In any case, what I've been told by experts in vineyard